Hey everyone, Xiaoling here and welcome back. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at Conan Exiles. Now Conan Exiles is a sandbox survival game in early access. Yep, another early access survival game because we don't have enough of those, right? However, if the FAQ is to be believed, they claim that the game will be out of early access in a year. There are many early access survival games and very few of them have even come out of alpha, never mind being finished. So I've spent around 31 hours with the game so far across both single player and multiplayer on a dedicated server with some friends, so all PvE. What I do want to say though before I continue is that I've only played through the early parts of the game. I chose to play the game with the default settings, like gathering at normal speed, leveling at normal speed and all that kind of thing. And as a result I've not played all the way through to in-game content because I wanted to play the game the way the developers intended, or at least the way it was intended at the moment. When I do get further, perhaps I'll make another video detailing in-game content. So keep in mind what I talk about now will be limited to what I've played. After creating a character, and you're going to need to make one for each server since your characters do not transfer between servers, you'll get a brief tutorial and then thrust into the world proper where you need to survive. And as with a number of other survival games, you're going to have stats that you're going to have to watch, like hunger and thirst and health, and you have to keep these bars filled, otherwise you take damage and you will eventually die. You'll be gathering materials, chopping down trees, mining stones, gathering fiber from bushes, and of course defending yourself from the various wildlife that roams the landscape. You'll get XP for killing stuff, crafting stuff, and even a small amount of XP just for being on the server. As you level up, you get to increase your tributes like you would in any RPG, all of which affect your different stats. So for example, if you increase strength, you'll do more melee damage. If you increase agility, you'll affect your range damage, and so on and so forth. Each time you level up, you go to gain crafting points, which are then used to unlock crafting recipes, of which there are very many. So during your playthrough, you are going to learn how to craft better armor, weapons, building parts, and all that kind of thing. And eventually you'll find a nice spot to set up your starter base. You'll also need to create a bedroll, which basically serves as a spawn point if you die, but the bedroll despawns once you die and you'll have to create another one. I'm not sure why they included this mechanic, but once you get to level 13, which can take many hours, you can craft a bed, which essentially is a permanent respawn spot that doesn't disappear when you die. Leveling in Conan Exiles is a very long grind. It takes a long time to gain levels, and all of the crafting recipes in the game are locked behind level requirements. So I think unless you tweak all the XP multipliers in the game, it's going to take you a good few hours to get anywhere. And in fact, there were times when you feel you're not getting anywhere, even after spending an entire session killing mobs and roaming around and things like that. We didn't level up. Outside of that, you'll be exploring the land. As you head further north, enemies get harder. You'll need better equipment when heading in that direction, of course. Rhinos, spiders, hyenas, some kind of stone animals, a number of human camps will be scattered around. I believe there are even dragons and skeletons and things like that toward the end game. We even came across a few caves to explore, which were pretty cool. All the enemies unfortunately always spawn in the same places, so that was a little bit disappointing. The map that is available in early access is pretty big, and as I understand it, it's only going to be 1/5 of the biomes, because I believe they wanted 5 biomes in the game on final release. The setting is well suited for the game, and I think that there is a lot that they can do with it. As far as gameplay goes though, it doesn't really offer anything new. That's not necessarily a bad thing though. It's a survival game, so the mechanics are what you would expect to find in any survival game. Gather food, gather resources, mine, craft, survive, and so on and so forth. Combat is pretty simple. Left mouse button and right mouse button are your left and right hands respectively, so you can equip a sword and a shield, or a dagger and a sword. You can hold the button for heavy attack, although I haven't really noticed that much difference between a heavy attack and a light attack. The shield can block about 3 or 4 times before it's destroyed and needs to be repaired. I don't know if this is a bug, but it needs to be fixed because for all intents and purposes, shields are kind of useless in the game at the moment. And because of that, combat devolves into spamming the left mouse button until the enemy is dead. You can dodge as well, but most of the time it's not worth the effort. It uses a lot of stamina, and after 3 or 4 dodges, you're out of stamina. So just kiting the enemy around and spamming attacks seems to be the most effective way of dealing with things. Or alternatively, you can craft a bow with lots of arrows and just kite around shooting the enemies, in which case they won't even get near you. And of course, enemies can't climb over anything that's got steps, so you can jump onto stones or raise platforms and they can't actually get to you. which is a bit retarded and it needs to be fixed as well. When we were exploring the areas away from the starter base, we'd set up a temporary camp in case we died, so this allows us to spawn at the temporary camp instead of spawning all the way back at base, so that we could kill some of the harder mobs for better XP and mine better resources like iron and that kind of thing, which are not found in the southern areas of the map. You have to sort of go to the middle, to the northern parts of the map to find that. So yeah, it's been a relatively enjoyable experience so far. Not groundbreaking by any means, but much better than I thought it would be. I did really expect this game to be absolutely awful, but you know, it just wasn't. However, there are many issues with Exiles in its current state that you should be aware of. Rubber banding and networking are issues that are rampant at the moment. They have been improved slightly over the past few weeks, but they are still present. Performance is another issue. The frame rates are very erratic in certain areas of the game. So it could be fine, and then all of a sudden it could just tank. And especially if you have an enclosed base and you run inside, sometimes the frame rate just starts going down when you go inside a building, or when you access chests and things like that, the frame rate just jumps all over the place. So these are obviously optimizations that still need to be put into the game. The performance isn't nearly as bad as Arc Frame Rate Evolved, but it definitely needs work. The AI itself is pretty horrendous and simple at the moment. Sometimes the animations don't play, the AI will just sort of slide towards you. Mobs that you've aggroed will follow you to the ends of the earth unless you find some way to cheese them and drop off a cliff where they can't follow you, then they'll stop. They also respawn exactly in the same places as do all the human camps in the game, which turns the game into somewhat of a stale experience in that there's no variety. You know, if you've built your base at a certain place, you know exactly where all the mobs are going to spawn and exactly where you'll aggro them if you walk to this specific place. And that's a little bit disappointing. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more randomness with the creature spawns, and maybe even some enemy patrols in the game that walk around, because the predictable spawn points reduces the sense of danger and surprise pretty quick once you know where the stuff is. As you progress through the game, you'll have the ability to capture thralls as well and bend them to your will on your Wheel of Pain, which will then unlock new recipes for you. You can get them to guard your bases. And eventually you can also summon your deity's avatar by upgrading your shrines, which can basically wreak havoc on your enemies. Your guy will control the deity himself. But this is all related to PvP. When you're playing PvE, the avatar summoning and things, I think, serves absolutely no purpose. Which leads me on to my next point. My main concern at the moment with the game is that I think that you're going to get the most out of it if you are a PvP player. The game mechanics and the end-game mechanics seem directly related to that and are designed for clan versus clan combat. My fear is that playing PvE is going to get very boring because currently there is no end game. There are no quests to find, there's no story to speak of really. I mean, you're going to find bits and pieces of lore here and there, but no actual story. You can level up to level 50, you can build an amazing base, but then what? No one's going to attack it. Yes, you can kill dragons, but to what end? To get more resources? You already have the base of your dreams. To get more XP? Well, no, you've already maxed your level. But I do want to say this. I like the setting of the game. I think the characters look great. The animations are very good. The game has an amazing atmosphere in my opinion, and I think it looks really, really good. But gameplay wise, I think it's very grindy at the moment, and again, of course you can change that, and if I were you, I'd very likely tweak some of the settings to make for a faster leveling experience if you're not playing with a big clan. The combat has potential, but unfortunately at the moment it's just a button mashing affair, and as I said earlier, I'm not sure what the future of the PvE experience is going to be like. However, the game still is in early access. They are updating the game relatively often. There are a number of servers to choose from, or you can create your own dedicated server. I believe they finally sorted out the dedicated servers now as well. But otherwise, I've been pleasantly surprised by Conan Exiles. I would say that unless you plan on playing PvP, maybe you should wait and keep an eye on to see how the PvE aspect of the game evolves over the next few months. I think this game has a great deal of potential, and I hope that over the next year they add a lot of things that will make the PvE experience more engaging, because obviously not everyone plays PvP. But yeah, that's been a look at Conan Exiles. If you guys have any questions, you can let me know in the section below. Hopefully this video has been helpful and that you enjoyed it. Otherwise, like, dislike, share, subscribe, you know, all the usual stuff. I've been Charling, and I'll see you guys next time.